How you doing, Scarlet?
I'm good, man. I think like all of us, I'm just kind of taking it day by day right now. Things are crazy. I don't know what to make of it. So I just kind of like I live in my own little bubble with my family, and I just do my thing, and we're just kind of riding it out.
Yeah, I think when you create and do stuff, it's not as bad as if you. I don't know what I would do if it didn't make stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I think if it wasn't for like what you said, man, having a creative outlet, whether it's through work or music, uh, you know, I, I I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be insane. I mean, there are days where I feel like I'm losing it, and music's always that my go-to happy place, and it kind of reels me back in. Yeah, so I don't know what I would do without an outlet, man. And I know a lot of people that don't have that. So uh, yeah, I can't imagine it, man. Can you?
Yeah,
The
no, no.
world.
Sometimes I'm talking with someone, I actually have to show that compassion when someone's in a different headspace. Like, oh wait, they don't do that. I just because like for you and I, it's been pretty much our whole lives. You're like, whoa, whoa, and then when you get other outlets inside of music, whether it's my show or your design, it's like, and it all comes together. That then it gets really fun. That's when I think it really. I don't think I could like music any more than I love it now because of intertwining things with it. You know what I mean? I think that's I think that's the one thing the rappers got right that we got wrong is they saw people in the crowd with the clothes. If they were Guns N' Roses, they would have made clothes and sold it. You know what I mean? And no,
Yeah.
Jay-Z said that rock bands got it wrong. When I saw kids wearing my clothes, I was like, I'm gonna make those clothes. How did you get in design? And the level you've taken it to is just so insane. I mean, I'm going into John Varvatos stores with Jamie looking at your stuff at one point. I mean,
Well, it all harks back really to when I was a kid. I fell in love with art and illustration when I was a kid. I don't know, maybe it was maybe too many Bugs Bunny cartoons or something. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But I really fell in love with animation and illustration, and not that I went down the animation route, but I was just that's where I fell in love with art, especially like pop art, or modern art,
Yeah.
and I think that once I got into music, those are the earliest memories I have of having a conscious um, uh, drive to create something based on something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember I would draw like stage sets. I
Yeah.
copy like we all did. We all copied the Van Halen logos and the Aerosmith logos and all that stuff. And then just a few years later, when I found myself in playing clubs and whatnot, I was just always that guy that like I didn't wait to get an invitation. I was like, I'm making the flyer. That's it, because I want the flyer to be cool. And I know that I'm gonna spend time on it and really just go nuts on it. And I just always jumped on that. And that's really where it started, was creating flyers, posters, t-shirt designs for whatever band I was in.
Did you create the Saigon Saloon logo?
Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
did.
dude, that like there's certain logos like that logo. I figured you had some crazy artist do. I mean, that holds up. Wow.
Yeah, no, I was very much like a lot of us, influenced by a lot of non-rock and roll stuff. And I
Yeah.
think when I saw bands, and what I mean by that is like cultural stuff. I was really fortunate. Like my dad worked for Pan American Airlines, right?
Oh, right,
So
right.
we got to travel a lot when I was younger. And when I went to the Far East as a kid, when I went to Japan and Thailand, it was, dude, the pop culture over there, like my head exploded.
Wow, this makes
Uh,
sense now for
yeah.
because you always had an edge, a big edge on it. Okay, so go on. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of really got into that. And then when you talk about bridging the gap, when I saw bands like Hanoi Rocks, that whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. I wasn't in their bubble, but
Yeah.
when I saw a lot of um, you know Far East imagery finding its way into their whole
Yeah.
trip, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's, influentially speaking, that's kind of like where it came from. And so the Saigon Saloon thing, just uh, wanting to incorporate things I love, like the whole dragons thing and the Far East thing. And it's funny, you know, I never told anybody this, but I used to have this sculpture. It was this really cool sculpture of a dragon, and it sat in our living room. And I named the dragon Aloysius. And you know, it's just like a little
Yeah, yeah, I
personal
get it.
inside
Yeah,
joke.
yeah.
And when I did the Saigon Saloon logo, that's what it was based on. Was
Wow.
my little sculpture of Aloysius, and there was a watch my girlfriend had that had a cool dragon on it, and I kind of mirrored that. So that's where it all came from. That's where it started.
It is weird how some stuff I think cool shit that resonates with you for a long time and bubbles, you know, that's why. Because I always thought that logo was so good, I gotta be honest, I was like, "Oh, Axl probably had that drawn from him, from the guy that did it." It's too good. There's like, that was that was
That's funny.
no, but you know what a regular band logo looked like, a regular teaser I mean, it was good, but there was even an art to that, that now you look back, there was an art to the bad hand-drawn logo.
Yeah, you know, man, I I'm so glad you brought that up. You know, I think in I must have been aware of it in the moment. You know, because we're all looking at each other. You know, what's Blackboard Jungle doing? What's Saigon Saloon?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
Black Cherry doing? What are they up to? You know, and I know I was always looking at the progression of things. You know, and I got to say, I think that for the level that we were all operating on, some fabulous stuff came out of there. You know, I mean, you want to talk about band logos or artwork or even just styling or whatever. I mean, there was some really great stuff coming out of there. I mean, you want
Yeah.
to talk about unbridled just creativity, just let loose. What a hotbed, right?
Oh, yeah, I looked at a picture the other day, someone posted a picture of Shanghai with, you know, Todd Muscat and Taz,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they're, got Taz, and, it was with Kim Fowley, and I'm like, "That is such an art and such a look." It was there was so many you could it makes me it must be like when someone looks at modern art, they see 1,000 things. I'm looking at that, just seeing a billion things, you know what I
Right.
mean? Even the fact that Kim made him pose with Platinum Records and they weren't theirs. I was look, there's the Casablanca logo, there's the Atlantic like, but
Yeah.
that's even part of the journey, and it was just so many trinkets and things that were just so cool.
What I loved about Los Angeles and what was going on was like didn't it seem like a giant melting pot to you?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
it was like
like even as segregated as it, you know, may have tried to be intentionally or unintentionally, things couldn't help but bubble over and just influence each other. And you know, I thought that was really cool. I hadn't seen that before, so I loved how that influenced creativity.
Oh, I think so totally, and especially being from back east, and I wasn't as cool back east as you were, but I could see where like an Axl or a Guns coming from Indiana, like where we grew up, you're into Skinner, Rossington Collins, then
Mhm.
you come back, you know, you come to Hollywood and you learn about these things, Iggy Pop, you know, the Lord, maybe they knew about it, but then everything influences you. Cause I know as this little kid that was into Rat, Motley Crue, you know, pretty simple kid, Springsteen growing up. I go to LA and my second night, I'm in Scream with Jamie looking at Celebrity Skin with the guy painted silver on heroin. I
Mhm.
felt like I got Jamie, I feel like I'm in a rock and roll nuclear war. I'm scared. I'm
Yeah.
scared. Then we go to, and we're bouncing between these worlds. And then you were one of the people that can navigate all the worlds. And that kind of set a goal for me. I remember being in an apartment looking at you and like, wait, he can play the Roxy and Scream? That was, you know, it was like heavy, you know, like rock and roll politics, which I loved. Like guys like you and Jimmy Thrill and Paul Black could navigate it all.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely an art to networking. Even to this day, I'm just a music fan beyond, you know, before anything else. I will always be just a geeked out music fan. So I think being that enamored of something that makes me feel so good, I just found it easy to just seek out whether it was at Scream or at the Rainbow or whatever. It's like I just wanted to be part of it, man.
Yeah.
So
And I think coming from back east, well, because dude, you love. I say there's people that like music, but you do. You love, like myself. It's all you think about. It's what your
oh
lives, your relationships, your friendships. It's all
yeah,
built. It's all
yeah,
built on it. And
yeah,
thank God. And
absolutely.
and making it becomes a different word than it did when you were 23. You know what I mean? The word evolves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You
You
know,
know,
and and just going to California from back east, there's some it could be a real work ethic. It's not taken as but when you move to LA, it's just like, wait, at that time, wait, nobody works. Everybody just plays music. This is like heavy metal Saturday. This is like Saturday Night Fever with rock and roll. Everybody
yeah.
just rocks, man. It was incredible. What year did you get there?
Let's see. I think the first time I went to LA was 83
Okay.
to visit. I went with a couple of my schoolmates who you probably know. Um, you know JK, famous James Keen
Oh
from Pretty
yeah.
Boy Floyd.
Oh yeah.
Okay, James was like one of my two best friends in high school. And then Adrian Vance, who was the guitar player in Sweet Pain, he was our other best friend. And Adrian had a brother that lived out in LA, and we went out to visit him. That was my first ever time in LA on LA. And one night we went up to the Rainbow, and it was just
Dude, right?
I mean, I mean, look, you know what the weird thing is? That I grew up on Cream and Rock Scene. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
totally.
And if you read those magazines, which I know you did,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
sure a lot of other people out there did, it was always about hearing about places like Max's Kansas City, CBGB's, places that were just a little bit before my time.
Right, right.
So by the time I was of the age to kind of find my people, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I don't know, where am I going to, it just wasn't on my radar. So when I went to the Rainbow and it was just like, oh, all these characters, it was like a Dolly painting come to life.
Totally, dude.
It was so bizarre and surreal. And all I can think of was like, are you kidding me? Like people can exist like this and not be afraid. They could live carefree and do what they want like this. It just blew my mind, man. And I think I pretty much knew shortly right after that, like, that's it, man. That's where I want to be. I need to get back to LA. So that was 83. I came back. I had, one more year of high school. I finished that up. And then we went back again, came back to New York. I finished high school. I started college. I started university. But by then, some stuff, and I was already in my first like real band, and things didn't work out. So I said I was going to go to LA, and that's kind of like when I first made my real first attempt to go move out to LA. But certain things happened. The next thing I know, I'm on tour opening up for Johnny Thunders. So I don't know. It was
Is
weird.
that what band was that in?
That was Angels in Vain.
Angels. Okay.
Yeah. So I had gone back to LA with the intention of moving out there permanently, and I met Steve Von Saint, and we got to talking, and I wound up joining Angels in Vain.
Wow. And
Yeah. And I had to go back to New York because they were based out of New York.
right.
But we eventually, at the end of touring, we found our way in LA. We wound up in LA, and then we stayed there for I think 6 or 8 months, 6 months maybe, and then came back again. And then that last time, that's when I moved out there on my own and started what would become Saigon Saloon.
Wow. So, man, and I used to live with Carol, who became the song Caroline, everybody, and she worked for Headline Management, and she
Yeah,
did a
yeah.
show. She did a show with you guys at the Roxy, and I'd wake up I was in hell. She had lied about her age. I was 18. She was like 10 years old, but it was a mess. but there was a Saigon Saloon, one of those posters they put in the Roxy, a four
Uh,
and the logo, and I would just go, "That's it. I gotta get there, man. I gotta get there." And what a cool band, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I,
Yeah, it was definitely a good time. It was a great band. And when I say great band, I mean, I hope that doesn't come off
oh,
in an egotistical sense. It was a great band because all that I had hoped in putting a band together for all those years prior to leading up to that came together. And, here I was with four other guys who I loved like brothers. And that was so important. And I realized that that ultimately became the most important thing ever in having a band is you
yeah,
got to get along with your mates. You,
yeah.
you got to love being where you're at and creating with people. And that's why Saigon Saloon, I think, became so special, at least in my world, uh, because I love these guys like brothers. And then, of course, we worked really hard at creating at least a, a repertoire of material that was at least decent. People
Oh,
seem to like it.
dude, you had that
So
song, Jesus, You're My Friend. Like, there's certain times you go, this band's operating at a higher level. There's bands like you guys, Salty Dog, Junkyard, where once in a while you walk in, you go, this is operating at a higher level.
well, in regards to, I think I hear what you're saying, but I want to shed some insight to that.
Okay.
When we were writing a song like Jesus, You're My Friend, Kim brought that in,
Yeah.
the initial idea, and then we kind of him and I and uh, I think it was JoJo. We
Right.
kind of flushed it out, and the thing was that if I remember correctly, at that time, Kim wasn't listening. Like we weren't listening to the obvious stuff,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of other people were doing the same.
Yeah.
Like so. As much as I was into the Faces and the Rolling Stones, I was crazy about Ike and Tina Turner,
Right. Right.
and a
And
lot of R&B music. And Kim was like, I think the James Gang was his favorite band. And he
wow.
was really into a lot of R&B, a lot of funk. And that's where little tidbits would find their way in to these like pretty simple rock songs,
Yeah. Makes sense.
So like, when we we're all sitting around and we're tossing around the idea of like, what would it sound like if we attempted to write a rock and roll gospel song,
Yeah. Yeah.
something that even though it's very rock and roll and dark, can be very uplifting and you know hopeful. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where that came from.
And that's what's I think cool about like your band and like even if you look back on thrash, they were writing something that didn't exist. So you're trying to make a template out of things that did exist. This
Yeah,
and that's what I was learning. I wasn't learning that what you guys were teaching me at a circus magazine. I was literally how to go to Hollywood. I mean, I would sit out in front of Hollywood and Western and Kim would pull up on that old bike and just take his helmet off, be like, oh my God. It was Sebastian Bach until it was this guy. Back east, Sebastian Bach was the genetically correct rock and roll guy. Then Kim would get out off his bike with like just kind of aloof and be like, oh man, it even gets worse. You know what I mean? Just
genetically correct. That's
no, you know what I mean? It was like, just like I remember meeting Sebastian Bach with Jamie. He knew Rachel, the bass player, before he went on stage. And the first time was Skid Row. And I was like, it was like they had engineered the correct,
yeah, yeah,
and that was the same with Kim. You're like, oh my God, the
yeah.
hair was just stringy enough.
Kim definitely had the quintessential rock star look, which was really great. Uh,
Yeah.
and of course, that's what drew me to him. Like when I remember the night I met him, which was at White Trash. Remember Osco's?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't I didn't go, but I remember hearing like you. I was a little behind you, so I knew about that. And I'd looking at it that there's a Donna Summer movie. It was in the original Cat House there. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to hear this stuff, but
yeah,
like the way I put Saigon Saloon together, and it's kind of comical, was that I had this idea where I didn't want to hold like like you put an ad in the paper.
Oh yeah, no
Well,
Ingves. Oh,
yeah.
it's
And you got to audition people. They got to roll in their amplifiers, and then the second they come in, you're like, oh, this guy's so
by
low.
the time they tune whether it's gonna, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then you got to wait it out. You're trying to. Yeah, I didn't want to go through all
It's
that
like
stuff.
job applications. Most of the good jobs you got were through a friend.
Right. Right, right. So
Yeah.
what I did was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go out, hit the bars, the clubs, whatever. And if I see somebody cool that seems cool, looks cool, whatever, I'm just going to walk up and hit them up and just be like, hey, man, are you in a band? Putting a band together. I need a singer. I need this. I need whatever. You look cool, man. Let's have a drink, right? Um, and kind of it was like, that's what I did with Kim. I walked up to Kim at White Trash at the bar and I just said, hey man, how's it going? He's like, hey, what's up? And I said, you got a great look. I said, what do you do? And he's like, I play guitar. And I was like, oh, perfect. Are you in a band? He's like, well, yeah. And I was like, I'm putting a band together and you look cool. And anyways, we hit it off. And, by the end of the night, we were both still standing, and
Yeah.
I said, this is the guy that I want to put a band together with. And we kind of like, we found Joe. Actually, Patrick Mazingo found JoJo.
Okay.
Which was a really cool story. He kind of came up to me. He's like, hey, I hear you're looking for a bass player. You got to meet my friend. You'll love him. He's great. And we met JoJo and we just hit it off. And,
Yeah.
JoJo never played a note. Kim never played a note. I never played a note. It was just like we met. We got to see that we were personality wise capable of working together.
Yeah.
It was just a good fit. I think that we saw that there was some chemistry early, there early on.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of it. So we would just go out, like meet some dudes and be like, can you hang? And if they couldn't hang, and if the personality wasn't right, it just, we'd move on. And I think that's why it wound up becoming such a great band, because we sought out people that we knew we would get along with.
Yeah. And wasn't Axel, did he at one point say Saigon Saloon was his favorite band in Rolling Stone? Did that? I
Yeah, that actually happened. Yeah, Guns. JoJo, our bass player, used to be Axel's roommate, and
Yeah.
so there was a lot of I knew Steven early on, just as they were getting together. I
Yeah.
knew Slash. I knew Slash before he was in Guns N' Roses. I knew
Right.
Slash
Oh.
when I was in Angels in Vain, and Slash was working at the newsstand, I think it was.
Centerfold news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and talking about getting Guns N' Roses together. Yeah, to cut to the quick, Guns blew up, they exploded,
Yeah.
and Axel was really cool. I mean, he was a good friend, and so he was trying to help us a lot. But on a certain level, he actually dug the band.
Oh yeah.
So
I heard him talking about the band at parties. That's what was so weird.
yeah,
The
he
biggest.
really he really wanted to help us. And I remember he came to our rehearsal studio. He was so excited. He just and he was like, I'm so excited to tell us. I got my first Rolling Stone cover, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's great. And he's like, I'm totally going to mention you guys. I want to mention you guys. And then he called me up and he's like, yeah, man, I did the interview and I mentioned you guys. So and I told him that it's got to be in there. And sure enough, man, it came out and there it was. It was
And
kind of a
what
trip.
and what that led me to realize is, okay, so this band's great. um this Axl Rose is saying, giving them the seal of approval, and I was meeting at that time with the same, 'cause a lot of the same A&R guys. There's Jeff Fenster, all those guys that would,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of them would come down just to see the chicks at our show. I started to learn, you realize what they were doing, it's playing with your head, telling you get rid of your singer, do that. They just want to hang out and make excuses because they keep their job if they don't sign a band. If they sign a band, and I was like, and someone said, I remember a lawyer said, hey man, this band's great. Michael Jackson could say, who was huge at this time, that he loves this band, and they wouldn't give him a record deal on that term because it's just people are so scared right now to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
that was such a crushing job to have, I'm sure at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A-
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really understood the industry on a great level, so it's kind of mind-boggling sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once in a while, something slipped through, like a bang tango, where they were actually cool. You know what I mean? It's like they weren't signing the cool bands. You know what I mean? Post Guns N' Roses, they did it. They did that run of Junkyard, Salty Dog, and then the doors closed. I remember going to A&R person with Kim Fowley and them saying, "You need to sound more like Roxy Blue," which was just a bad strip, bad. And then a few weeks later, the same person called us up again. Need to sound more like Bang Tango and Jane's Addiction. It was just crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah. That's maybe call me naive at the time, right? Which I'm
Hmm.
sure I was incredibly
Yeah.
naive.
I'll tell you why I think we were naive because we should have just put our records out and just did it on our own.
Exactly.
That
Yeah,
was a stupidity. I mean, we didn't have the internet, but that was what Seattle had right that we didn't have
yeah,
right. We were
yeah.
sick. Yeah, yeah.
You're absolutely right. We all bought into that whole that we needed the
The
big record
East
deal
Side.
because we all wanted the big push. We wanted the
Yeah,
big money, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I never got that whole industry thing where it seemed like, yeah, they were afraid to take a chance on bands that were really not just really good, but maybe just a little bit different.
yeah.
I mean, so many bands out there uh, that couldn't get a deal, and you kind of scratch your head because I remember gigging in Saigon, and maybe we were getting popular, and maybe we were getting a buzz, whatever. But I remember looking at other bands, and thinking, man, I want to be as good as them. I want to bring it up to their level,
Yeah, yeah,
and they couldn't get arrested, so
yeah.
to speak. So I don't know.
So, yeah, you'd watch Headbangers Ball, and I'm not to be bad, but Slick, Toxic, all these kind of throwaway bands, and I'm like, wait, Rattlesnake Shake, Jimmy Thrill's got every rock star in the world down here at his show with the teaser, Saigon Saloon, and no one's just gonna throw them the little record deal that you heard that Brent said Faster Pussycat got, just almost the throwaway record deal that they were, you know what I mean? Like, just a
Right.
throwaway record deal, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know, man. In regards to us, I think you know, we got courted. We got courted,
Oh
and
yeah,
and but the thing was, like, going back to what you said a little while ago, I remember Epic was really hot
yeah,
on
yeah.
campus, Epic, and we had several meetings and whatnot, and then the guy that wanted to sign us, and I don't want to say names, obviously, but he came to a real super cool guy, and he got
Probably was it Keith Bailey?
no,
Okay.
no. I'd tell you if it was, but it
Okay,
wasn't.
okay.
Uh, I'll tell you, Bob Pfeiffer. Bob
Okay,
Pfeiffer.
okay.
Who was look him up. He had an incredible history, and I was really jazzed that Bob Pfeiffer was coming down to see us or to talk to us. And then he came. We had a couple meetings, and then he came to one of our rehearsals, and I remember him pulling me aside and 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 making the comment of getting a guitar tutor to come in and work with me and Kim because he thought that we should take it in the direction of like a Van Halen,
Yeah,
where like
yeah,
the guy, kids want this and kids want
yeah,
that, and I looked at him and I was like, I don't get it, man. Like,
yeah.
are you here to see us? Why are you here? Like, like, why do you want to turn it into something it's not? And I was just like, okay, I was like, I'll mull it over. And then we had a follow-up meeting, I remember, and it was with Bob Dylan's attorney, Jeff Fenster, and somebody else or whatever. And somebody proposed the idea
Jeff Fenton.
of bringing in outside writers, and
Oh,
and don't get me wrong, I wasn't offended by it, and I I almost welcomed the idea to see where they wanted to go,
but your strength, you were writing songs better than they were gonna throw. That's what's just so weird to me.
but what they said was they wanted to entertain the idea of us writing with Desmond Child, and
Who I love, but it's not Saigon
right,
Saloon.
right, like,
Come
don't
on,
get me wrong, Desmond Child. the guy is like the Yoda, right?
Unless they were thinking on some rap genius level, unless you're on a page that I don't know about where this is so not a match that you're trying to reinvent music. Like,
right. And so I said that, I said, I'm sorry, man. Like, I don't think that Desmond Child or somebody of that cloth is a good fit, and I would say if you were to bring somebody else, maybe say an Ian Hunter
oh yeah,
or somebody like that, sure. But I knew that, I knew that me going to turning into a Eddie Van Halen virtuoso, which wasn't going to happen, but going down that route and writing songs that sound like Desmond Child, I just knew it'd be the death knell for
oh yeah.
a band like us, because we weren't from that world.
Mm-mm.
We were just a ragtag little kind of rock and roll rhythm and blues outfit, and that's what we wanted to build on. So I think that
And that creates tension in the band too when it's right there
yeah.
and you don't take it. I never thought I'd say no to a record deal, but someone offered Blackboard Jungle a deal and said, if you'll cover Crash Diet, that's that Wes Arkeen song that was floating around Hollywood. They
Yeah.
had bought, and I had to say no because that song was what I did more than bass. That was my job. Our songs were better than it, and we said no. And I think Wildside did it and got the deal.
Oh wow. Oh
You know what I
wow.
mean? And I never thought I'd say no. How could you say no? You work your whole life for something. People
Yeah.
don't say no. That's a lie. But you're like, oh.
Right.
Well, you use a cover to make your own statement because we know bands like Guns owned "Knocking on Heaven's Door." Come on, it's more Guns than Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
I mean, I love go back, but and I had heard the Bob Dylan on my dad's Live at Budokan album for years, but they owned it. It was a statement. There's something behind it. You own every word and everything. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
behind it.
Well, you know what I dug about that tune, because I remember when it came out, and I got to be on. I'll be honest, man, and I would say this to
Yeah.
to the guys as easily as I would say it to you. But I think when I first heard "Knocking," I was just like, "Oh, really? Oh, come on!" But then, like, I sat down and I listened to it, and I think that for me, what I love about that tune and other GNR songs is that, I don't know about you, but when I listen to "Knocking on Heaven's Door," by the second verse, dude, I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, I'm just like, I'm feeling it. Like, it hurts, right? And
Oh,
it just, and I think that's what it is, like the emotion. They captured the feel. They captured a vibe and an emotion in that take, in that song, in that recording. And I think that's what makes it phenomenal. That's where they owned it. And that's what I love, when a band covers a tune and they can do that. And it doesn't just become, paint by numbers, so to speak.
well, they did it. I remember being at Lemore's as a kid. I didn't go to my something in school and went and saw him, and they covered that. And Axel had in that voice that just when he talks, even when he's on Scooby Doo recently, just gives me chills.
Yeah.
it, and he talked about Todd Crew not being there in the morning and dedicated. So there was obviously something. So tell me about Smash Fashion, which I love. I've been watching the videos and it's such a cool band, man, and such the spirit, so modern yet like with its foot in stuff we grew up on.
Well, what do you want to know? I mean,
I mean, how did it come about? Where's it going? What's
okay.
and where can people hear it? Where can people hear it?
Well, first off, it's up on all Smash Fashion is up on Spotify.
I'll put links in the chat.
We also have a YouTube channel. So yeah, so you can stream it on Spotify and whatnot. All this stuff should be up there. First off, I'll say, man, going back to what I said about being above all else a fan of music, number one, Smash Fashion. Wow, like as a band, and I'm not talking in the first person. I'm talking as if I even wasn't a part of it.
Right.
Like, that band blows me away. Like Roger
Yeah.
Deering, Roger, he's just one of those guys that, like, his songwriting and his craftsmanship is just on a whole different level. Like, it's just genius as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
Yeah,
he just
yeah.
knows how to craft really great, melodic, clever rock and roll power pop songs. So I had known Roger back in the Saigon Saloon days when we all rehearsed at Hollywood and Western.
Yeah.
We rehearsed on the third floor,
I remember walking
and,
by
and
your
on the
room.
and on the third floor, the Drills from Florida had moved in, and JoJo knew Roger, and so that's how I got introduced to those guys. And so that's when I first met Roger, and we hit it off, and we've been friendly over the years. And you know, we lost connection, and back in the MySpace days,
Yeah.
we reconnected. And I was like, "Hey, how are you?" And he tells me he's got this band going on, and I listened to it, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is everything I want in a band." You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they look great, they sound great, they play really, really good, and most importantly, the songs were. It was like if you took all the cool stuff that we loved and put it in a blender, and it just kind of came out in this cool little concoction. And that's what he's managed to do, is that, you know, every band that I love has a piece in smash fashion, you know.
Yeah. It seems like that. I love that. Yeah.
I really loved the band from day one, just because they just encapsulated all these different elements of what I loved, and I thought they did it really, really well.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, they're in LA. I mean, it's too bad. Or I'd show up at their doorstep with my bass and be like, "Get rid of your bass player
Yeah.
because I'm going to be in your band," you know. But no, I mean, I just kept in touch with them over the years. And then fast forward a couple of years later, Roger and the band had finished their new record, and he needed some artwork. And so I did the artwork for them. And just as the record came out, he wanted to do some touring, and the bass player, who was the late Tony Kinman, I don't know if, from Rank and File, legendary guy,
Okay.
uh, huge talent, super cool. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, Thunderbird down to here, just
Right.
all
Right.
just coolness and vibe. Tony had not wanted to tour. And so Roger rang me up and he said, "Hey, we've got some shows on the East Coast. Would you be up for doing the shows?" And I just couldn't be more excited because I love the band. I was such a huge fan, so I jumped at the chance and really looked forward to it. And they came over, and you know, I had known Roger, and I knew Stu also from the same time frame. Stu at the time had been playing with Rock City Angels, and Stu worked at the Coconut Teaser.
Oh
So
yeah, I know Stu. Yeah.
yeah, I knew Stu from all the times we played at the Coconut Teaser. And Stu
Yeah.
was a cool guy,
So
super
cool.
cool. And, you know, I didn't know at the time because I hadn't played with Stu.
Yeah.
All I had heard was Stu on record or on CD, right, with Smash Fashion. I thought, wow, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I know Roger, I know Stu. I didn't really know Repo from back then, but I met Repo obviously when they came over, and we hit it off. Like, I mean, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It was really, really great. And we gelled stylistically, and it worked really good, and the shows were fun. And so they left, and I get a call a couple of hours after they left, and it's Roger. And Roger's like, "We just landed in LA, and on the airplane, all we could talk about was how much fun we had. It was probably the most fun we've ever had since this band's been together, and what a good fit you are. So
Wow.
we're wondering, you know, if you'd like to be a member because we need a bass player." So I was like, "Yeah, let's see if we can make it happen." And you know, Roger, to his credit, he really understood that, you know, I don't live on the West Coast anymore. I live in the East Coast. And
Yeah.
so there was a big hurdle to jump, and we kind of figured out a way to make it work. And it's just been
It's awesome, man.
pretty easy ever since. You know, we've managed to work out a dynamic that allows us to actually be productive without having to live in the same area.
Oh yeah,
So
it's changed. It's no longer about seven. We did our 7 day a week band practices and then going out flying. So you've got that much. You've done your 10,000 hours. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
I
you know,
know.
technology is a wonderful thing. I mean, it really has allowed us to come so far, and this is one of the things I love, is that, you know, you can create with somebody on the other side of the
So
world.
cool. Yeah.
That is beyond amazing,
Yeah, what we're doing right now, it's insane.
man.
It's insane. It's insane. Well, thank you, dude. We're gonna have to do part two because this has been one of my favorite ones, man. It's so
This is
cool,
fun.
Scarlet.
This is
Yeah,
really fun. I mean, yeah, we could do a whole series. I mean,
yeah.
we lived it. There's so much to talk about. But thank you so much.
Well,
I have on that.
thank you, and say goodbye to everybody and hang out because I want to say goodbye to you after this.
All right.
All right.